Hi, guys. Today we're going to be looking at the Native Americans in more detail. And I wanted to start by reading for you one of the Native American common folk tales that they tell about our state tree, the pecan tree. The pecan tree's best friend. Long ago, a family of orioles, they're the yellow birds in the picture, lived in a nest in a large pecan tree. The proud parents cared for 5 little ones who could not yet fly. The orioles protected the tree from bugs. The tree provided shade and protection from enemies. One day, the father oriole saw many large birds flying inland, and he knew they only did that if there was a huge storm coming. As the sky clouded and the wind grew stronger, the father oriole became afraid. My family will be dashed to pieces by this storm, he thought. And the pecan tree recognized the bird's fright. He said to the father, "There is a hole underneath my largest branch. Move your family there, and they will be safe from the storm." The grateful bird moved his family into the hole. The wind and rain caused the tree to sway back and forth. The nest in the branches was torn away and destroyed. However, the oriole family was safe inside the tree. And after the storm, the father bird promised to help the tree one day. The tree laughed and said, "How can you help me, little bird?" "I will find a way," replied the bird. That fall, the oriole traveled to Mexico as he did to spend every winter. The weather was warmer than usual, and the bird learned that trees in Texas were about to put out their buds earlier than usual. The little bird could sense in his little bones, though, that cold weather would return. The bird flew as fast as he could to Texas, and when he reached the tree, he learned his friend was just about to put out his buds. "Stop," he said. "The weather is about to turn cold again. If you put out your buds now, they will freeze, and you won't be able to make any buds." The tree laughed, but he took his friend's advice, and he did not bud. And sure enough, cold weather returned, killing the buds on all the other trees. But the pecan tree was the only one to produce pecans that year. All the other trees heard what the oriole did for one of their kind. And from that time on, all Texas pecan trees have been friends and common homes for the orioles. And that is why you often see the small birds living in pecan trees. On a side note, the pecan trees are also some of the very last trees in spring to ever put out their buds. So you see, the Native Americans loved to look at what was local and incorporate it into their myths and stories. Native Americans across North America. Did you know that there are more than 560 Indian tribes officially recognized by our U.S. government? The tribes own more than 56 million acres of land. Why, the map on this next page shows the origin of some of these tribes. Some tribes have unfortunately disappeared, but others live in parts of our country today. We're going to look specifically at just the Native Americans that live in Texas. We will learn of their life before and after Spanish explorers arrived, and we will learn how the environment affected their way of life. Most Native Americans are prehistoric people, so they did not have a written language. It makes it difficult to know about their life in great detail. We have to rely on word of mouth, accounts of their history and their culture. Some of what we know comes from the written records of the Spanish explorers. It was difficult for them to communicate with the natives. Therefore, they did not always understand much of what they saw. Many records of Native American early history is lost. And this was due to the wars and disasters that often plagues brought on by the explorers. Here's the map that it was referring to. It shows all the large Indian tribes of North America. And we're going to be focused on the southwest region, that dark red region at the bottom. We will hit a little bit into the orange plains and prairies and a little bit into the southwest woodlands. But that's going to be the area we are focused on. And we're going to start with the very exciting Comanche. Less than 200 years ago, many Native American tribes lived in Texas. The map shows several of the noteworthy tribes. Every tribe has an amazing culture and history. In the rest of this section, we are going to learn about several of the largest tribes. We're going to start here with the Comanche. The Comanche lived in the north central plains and the Great Plains region. This area has a higher elevation and is very, very dry. The Comanche based their entire way of life and their money and their economy on hunting. The primary thing that the Comanche hunted was the buffalo. And you can see in these three pictures how the Native Americans used the buffalo hide. They would use the buffalo hide or its dried skin as waterproofing and to make their teepees and their homes. They also used the hides to make their clothing. They would even use the horns and the fur to make warmer clothing, blankets, and headdresses. They hunted the buffalo. They used every part of the buffalo. They used the hide, they used the horns, the meat, the bones. Nothing was ever wasted. Buffalo moved in really large herds, and it made it very hard for them to kill. The Comanche were extremely skilled hunters. They had to be, since in the beginning, they hunted the buffalo on foot. It is not until later, when these Spanish explorers come and they set up the Spanish missions, that they bring horses to North America. But in the beginning, the Comanche had never seen a horse before that. Once they make the discovery of horses, then buffalo hunting becomes much easier. The picture on the previous page showed the different ways that they used the buffalo. The Comanche traveled in bands. The bands were small family groups. In the 1600s, they came to Texas, moving down from the plains of central United States to hunt the buffalo on the open land. Historians believe that they moved down from the Rocky Mountains and the Central Plains. The Comanches lived in camps made up of many teepees. These teepees were easily set up and taken down. For the Comanche were nomadic. They often traveled and moved around. They needed to follow the buffalo herd wherever it went. When you see movies and shows, the Indians often depicted in those things are designed after the Comanche. But the Comanche weren't just violent hunters. They had a family way of life. Comanche women spent their days preparing food and making clothes and other crafts. They did not have a lot of time to just sit around and hold on to their babies. So they invented an item called the cradle board. A cradle board is a kind of crib made of wood and deer skin. So what they would do is take a piece of wood, they would wrap it in buffalo fur or buffalo hide to make it soft, lay the baby on, and then wrap it around it in the hide and tie it in place. And then they could wear the cradle board on their front or on their back like a backpack. Today, when you see men and women that carry their babies in a pouch on the front or a pouch on their back, this is all designed after the idea of the cradle board. The children of the Comanche, if they had an older brother or an older sister, they would often parent the younger ones and tell them what to do. But if they did not, then any member of the band could parent and discipline a Comanche child. The Comanche were a community, and they believed it took the whole community to teach and raise and discipline children. The Comanche government. The Comanche were once a part of the Shoshone tribe of Wyoming in the Central Plains before they traveled south, where they were looking for better hunting grounds and for horses. They were the first Plains Indian tribe to master training, catching, and raising horses. And so the Comanche became very, very skilled riders. Comanche bands, however, do not have a single leader. Instead, a large council of respected men lead and make decisions for each band. Anyone is allowed to talk at a council meeting, but older men did most of the talking. An older and wiser member would be considered the peace chief, or the person who was not elected but was a respected member of the band. And in the times of war, the Comanches would select a war chief. This war chief was a man who had proven himself in battle and proven himself as a warrior, so that when the war ended, so did the war chief's authority. He was only able to make decisions and be in control when it was a time of war. Now, the Comanche are famous, though, for being an extremely violent and warlike group of people. When they moved down into Texas, they began conquering and taking over all of the smaller Indian tribes. What you see in the picture is an example of a war chief. This individual is Quanah Parker. He is considered the last free chief of the Comanches. He was very important at the very, very end of the Comanche time in helping the Comanches learn to adapt to the modern way of life. Today, there are some remaining 15,000 Comanche in Texas and other states. About half of them live in Oklahoma. And like all of us, they have modern jobs. They're doctors, teachers, and business owners. But they have not forgotten their special Native American heritage. And each year, they hold special celebration in Walters, Oklahoma. They honor the memories of their ancestors. They celebrate the accomplishments of their people. And their celebrations include the wearing of special colorful clothing, and they perform traditional dances. They play drum songs that tell the stories of their past, and they have celebrations. The Comanches share food and music and traditions. The picture you saw there was of the traditional hoop dance. And so the Comanches are a huge factor in understanding the way of life for Texans.